Hello, we have looked fairly extensively by this point at how we can collect data. Now we're going to talk about how we can actually store data, and in particular, what kinds of devices can we store data on, because we have quite a lot of choice. So in general, we need to have some storage to keep data for long periods of time. It may seem obvious, but if we are collecting data, we want to be able to keep it without losing it. If we haven't got any storage device in our computer, we can't keep data, especially once the computer is turned off. We can't keep it for the days, weeks and months ahead, and we want to do that usually. For the time being, we're talking about physical devices, so ones we can actually touch, ones which are in our general vicinity. We'll talk also about cloud storage, which is not physical, it's virtual, but for the time being, we can also break them down further into internal and external devices. Internal meaning inside of a computer, inside your phone, inside a laptop, devices which are not really readily, say, portable, because if you are evaluating, say, a hard disk, an internal hard disk is not portable, but an external hard disk, one outside of a computer, is more portable because you can take it around with you, plug it into a USB port. It's more portable than an internal one. So if you just said a hard disk is portable, that's not really true. An external one is, an internal one isn't. But we'll talk about this more. Other external devices include things like SD cards, a USB memory stick. Don't just call it a USB, because a USB is the kind of port. It's a USB memory stick, and also things like CDs, each of which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. First of all, though, I want to talk about some different key characteristics, which will be really good terms to use if you are in an exam question evaluating different devices. So weighing up what's good, what's bad. Every different type of device has got pros and cons. We want to be able to evaluate them, and some good terms to use are the ones on this page. So first of all, capacity. Capacity related to storage is how much data can be physically stored on the device, and usually it's in terms of units like gigabytes, terabytes. So how much data can fit on the device. The bigger capacity, the better, generally speaking, right? You want to be able to have more and more space in which to store your files. Another important characteristic which we can evaluate is speed, and this is to do with how quickly we can read data from a device once it's been stored, and how quickly we can write to a device. So we'd rather it be quicker, obviously, because we can do more stuff. We're not sat around waiting for a file to load if the read-write time is very quick. A word I've used already is portability, which is how easily we can move the storage device. An internal device is not really designed to be taken out of the laptop or the computer, but external devices are usually designed to be fairly portable. We can take our data and transport it to various places, which can be quite useful. Durability is also important. This is how well our device can resist damage. Can it still work if it gets wet, if it gets dropped? Ideally, it will keep working. We want it to be durable, so our data doesn't get lost in case there is some damage. A similar but slightly different characteristic is reliability. This is how long the device will consistently work for, kind of how trustworthy our device is. So durability is more if you drop it or some other kind of one-off event. Reliability is more about longer term. Will it consistently work? Will it suddenly just stop working for no particular reason? We don't want that, clearly. We want it to be reliable. We want it to keep working for hopefully a long time. A final important characteristic is cost, right? You want to be paying less money, ideally. And it's important to consider how much the cost is per data unit, so per unit of information. Because if you have, say, a CD, which costs you £5, and a hard disk, which is £200, well, the hard disk is more expensive, but is likely to have a much, much bigger capacity. So we need to compare it at the same capacity, otherwise it's not really fair, it's not a fair comparison. There are other relevant characteristics we could talk about, things like noise. If it's got a spinning disk, it might be quite loud, it might generate quite a lot of heat, it might not be very energy efficient, a lot of electricity might be used, and also physical size is relevant. You could have a massive, massive disk with a huge capacity, but it may not fit inside your tablet or your phone or whatever, right? So ideally, it will be fairly small if you don't have much space. All of the characteristics on this page you could write about in an exam question.